Hello everyone, thanks for joining us for yet another episode of Football Planet here on Africanews, your Pan-African channel. Now action continues in the Russia 2018 World Cup. We've seen some entertaining goals and shocking results, being the first World Cup in the tournament's history where video assistant referees are being called into action. We'll be taking a look at how this technology has fared so far. And after an apparent false start for 3 African teams in the World Cup in Russia, there have been a lot of questions of hope and questions of despair. For some insights, we will later be speaking to Alassane Dia in Senegal, who is a CAF training instructor. And Kenya's largest prison facility, the Kamiti Maximum Prison, played host to a mock World Cup for inmates, pitting a mock Russian team against a mock Saudi team. What happened? Stay tuned. This episode of Football Planet starts now. Video assistant referees made their debut in Russia, and the officiating technology has already featured in few major decisions. So far, it is working. On Saturday, VAR made its first ever World Cup penalty decision, which came in the 54th minute of France's opening match against Australia. Let's listen to the following report.
After just 5 days of World Cup action, the use of video assistance referees, or VARs, which is the first for the new technology at the world's biggest football tournament, has already stirred a lot of debate. France was awarded a penalty in its opening game against Australia after the referee consulted with the VAR, while Iceland thought VAR should have been employed to award them a penalty in their game against Argentina. Gambian referee Bakari Gassama, who employed VAR technology in the Peru-Denmark game, had earlier expressed optimism that the VAR system, which we are all learning, will give match officials a sense of security when making big decisions. The use of the VAR system was approved in March by the rulemaking body IFAB, despite controversy in some of the competitions in which it has been trialed over the time taken to make decisions and lack of information for spectators. Critics of the system say it takes spontaneity out of the game, but the VAR inventions at this year's World Cup have so far been quick and painless. With 6 penalties already awarded after just 8 games, many are already asking whether VAR could be responsible as referees rely more and more on the video technology.
Like we told you in the headlines, now after an apparent false start for 3 African teams in the World Cup in Russia, there have been a lot of questions being raised. And on the line, we are now joined by Alassane Dia, a CAF training instructor, speaking to us from Dakar, Senegal. Hello, coach. The continent has had a bad start in the tournament. First of all, we saw Morocco and Egypt play very well, but still gave in the dying minutes of the game. What do you think about these 2 defeats?
Je pense que, comme vous le dites, l'équipe du Maroc et l'équipe d'Égypte ont produit un jeu.
I think Morocco and Egypt played a game that seemed to be more or less convincing until we realized there were some limits. And these limits proved cruel, unfortunately, because their time management and the management of the match was not very effective in the end. The same scenario occurred for both teams, that is to say, mistakes made within 30 meters. And when we know that at this level of the competition, it is extremely dangerous to keep making mistakes in this area. I think Morocco and Egypt have learned a lesson at their own expense. Morocco missed their chances, especially in the first half, when they had a very clear domination over the Iranians, who were there to force a draw. Egypt had a problem at the offensive level. There was a certain imbalance between the defensive and offensive capabilities of the team. In the end, during the last quarter of an hour, they ended up cracking precisely from one of the many free kicks they committed in the 30 meters area.
And coach, on Saturday we saw Nigeria tried to play the game but struggled. Coach, what's your take on this match?
Écoutez, moi, pour ce qui me concerne, le Nigeria me laisse toujours une impression mitigée.
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, Nigeria always leaves me with a mixed impression. When I look at the potential of this team and the results that it gets, especially at the AFCON and at the World Cup as well, with the possible exception of World Cup when they managed to go past the first round, we sometimes have the impression of a mess, because in this game it is very important to enter the competition with a shared feeling, to play like a team. Did Nigeria come to play against, which means that the defense had to be well organized to be able to carry out dangerous counterattacks? Or should they go take on the opponent? But Nigeria neither showed the ability to manage spaces and defend its camp, nor the ability to offend into the Croatian side, which means that the Croats moved more or less freely. And it is expected in the end, after Nigeria accumulated mistakes, victory went to the Croatian team.
Thank you very much, Alassane Dia. Alassane Dia will be our analyst during this World Cup. He is a CAF training instructor in Dakar, Senegal. Now, as Argentina and Iceland clashed in Moscow's Spartak Stadium for their World Cup opening match, Malawian football fans had their focus elsewhere, supporting their domestic game. Now, some 45,000 fans thronged the Bingu National Stadium in the capital Lilongwe to witness an Airtel Top 8 semi-final clash between Blantyre-based Nyasa Big Bullets and B Forward Wanderers. Now on the line, we have Mike Bango, a Malawian football commentator, to talk to us about that. Thanks, Bango, for staying on the line. Now, like it will be widely imagined, football fans would rather stay at home in front of their screens to follow the World Cup, but like witness, Bingu National Stadium filled to capacity. Would you say there is something special happening in Malawi's football?
I would say that Malawians are too patriotic to their football, with the World Cup taking place in Russia, and of course, at a good time in the afternoon. Most of the World Cups have been played during the night, but this time around, the games are being played the very same time we also have our league games here. But this Blantyre derby at Bingu National Stadium surprised everybody because we had over 40,000, over 45,000 people who witnessed this match. Maybe the thing is that Bullets is in good shape. This time around, we should say that 2007 and 2014, when Bullets and Wanderers were not performing well after losing their sponsorship, things were not okay. People would maybe opt to go and watch World Cup games. Fans were staying home and to watch the Premier League or whatsoever. Like in this case, if Bullets were in the same scenario and Wanderers in the same scenario, like in 2007 and 2014, we would have seen few people there. But now Bullets are back to their feet, well-sponsored and winning again, and the fans are just back. So as long as Bullets is involved, fans will come in large numbers regardless of other events happening like World Cup and as well as EPL.
Bango, fans are the lifeblood of football, and so far, from a more general African perspective, the fans are not getting enough delight watching African football. Now, local leagues have over time lost their place in the hearts of fans as the fans got more exposed to foreign football on more regular basis. Is there a way out of this?
Our authorities in football, they have to do something that can convince people why they should go. But first of all, it's about the standard of play. What are these teams giving it out to the people? Football is a product. So if you want your product to be sold, you need to have some ingredients. And this time around, you look at how people patronize the Champions League. We have our own Champions League here in Africa, but people don't watch like the way they want Champions League. They can stay up to the screens up to 10 o'clock just to wait for the Champions League game. They have to do something. Why should people go and watch these matches? I've talked about the product itself, but when they go there, they find something that is different to what they expect. So the standard of play should improve first. And the marketing itself, they don't market this football the way they do in Europe. So they need to market the game itself, whether it's CAF Champions League, Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. They need to market these games in our local associations. They need to do that. For instance, here in Malawi, those running the game, They will just leave it to journalists just to mention the fixture, this game. But these guys who are running the game, they don't even go to media houses and strike deals for publicity or whatsoever. Why should people from that country be involved in patronizing the games that their teams are playing? So these are the things that we should do so that maybe people of Africa should understand that this is their game. And they should also increase sponsorship for these teams to fight well. They need a lot of money. You'll be surprised here in Malawi that it's the most least sponsored league in southern part of Africa. I can also just say in Africa. So they need to invest a lot, like they do in Europe. That way, I think we'll have a massive support from local people watching their games.
That was Mike Bango, a sports commentator, speaking to us from Lilongwe in Malawi. Now, inmates in a prison in Argentina last week began a hunger strike to press authorities to repair a cable television system so that they can watch the World Cup. But elsewhere in Kenya's Kamiti maximum prison in the capital Nairobi, inmates took part in a mock World Cup of their own. Take a look.
As the World Cup embarked on the 21st FIFA World Cup in Russia on Thursday last week, Kenya's largest prison facility, the Kamiti Maximum Prison, played host to a mock World Cup for inmates. Pitting a mock Russian team against a mock Saudi team in the opener, the month-long tournament will see 8 prison teams participate from various correctional facilities within Kenya's capital, Nairobi.
We are here today to launch a World Cup in the prison. And the reason why we are engaging the inmate in the World Cup is just because World Cup is one of the things that all the men will love. So we are trying to create an impression and a different impression to the inmates and just show them value. And the major reason why we are here is just we want to unveil our own World Cup behind bars.
With most of the inmates taking part in the tournament serving life sentences, tournament organizers adapted the theme Sports as a Tool for Transformation with the aim of giving hope to inmates, creation of self-awareness among inmates, and social reintegration.
And I myself, I will be so happy to watch. But
I would be so happy to watch the game between Russia and Saudi Arabia, but not as happy since I am in prison. If I was a free man, I would be very happy since I would have watched the games from anywhere. In prison, we have a communal television set, but the games are played at night and there are no television sets in the cell.
Tournaments such as this one are possible due to the effects of the prison reform program that was rolled out in 2001 by the then new Chief Justice of Kenya's Supreme Court, Dr. Willy Mutunga, that encouraged a more social correctional process in Kenya's prisons.
Well, that's all we had for you this week on Football Planet. You can also find this show on our website, africanews.com. I'm Victor Mwisio. Goodbye.